Once upon a time, in a small village in ancient India, there lived a man named Ananda. Ananda was a hardworking and honest farmer who lived a simple life with his wife and children. Despite his many blessings, Ananda had a habit of worrying excessively about every little thing that came his way. One day, Ananda woke up early in the morning, feeling restless and anxious. He had a big day ahead of him as he had to harvest his crops, and the weather forecast predicted a storm later that day. Ananda's mind was filled with worry and tension as he thought about the possibility of losing his entire crop to the storm. As Ananda set out to work, he noticed a group of Buddhist monks passing by this farm. They were on their way to the nearby monastery, and Ananda saw this as an opportunity to seek guidance from them about his worries. He approached the head monk and explained the situation, telling him about his fears of losing his crops to the storm. The wise monk listened patiently and then said to Ananda, "My dear friend, worry and tension are like two birds that constantly perch on your shoulders. If we allow them to stay, they will peck away at our happiness and rob us of our peace of mind. Instead, we must learn to detach ourselves from our worries and live in the present moment." Ananda was intrigued by the monk's words and asked him how he could learn to let go of his worries. The monk smiled and said, "Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a man who lived in a small village. He was known for his intelligence and was often sought after for his advice. One day, the king of the neighboring kingdom heard of this man and decided to put his intelligence to the test. The king sent his soldiers to the man's village and asked him to come to the palace. When the man arrived, the king presented him with a glass of water and asked him, "Can you tell me what is in the glass?" The man looked at the glass for a moment and replied, "Your Majesty, this glass contains water." The king was pleased with the man's answer and then asked him, "Can you tell me what is in the glass if I add a spoonful of salt to it?" The man thought for a moment and replied, "Your Majesty, if you add salt to this glass of water, then it will contain salt water." The king was impressed with the man's intelligence and then asked him, "Can you tell me what is in this glass if I add another spoonful of salt to it?" The man replied, "Your Majesty, if you add another spoonful of salt to this glass of water, then it will contain salt water." The king then asked the man to taste the glass of water. The man took a sip and then made a face, saying, "Your Majesty, this water is very salty. It is undrinkable." The king then looked at the man and said, "My dear friend, just like the salt in this glass of water, your worries are like the spoonful of salt. Then that makes the water undrinkable. If you keep adding salt to the water, it will become too salty to drink. Similarly, if you keep worrying about every little thing, your mind will become overwhelmed and you will lose your peace of mind." Ananda listened intently to the monk's story and then realized the wisdom in the king's words. He realized that he had been adding spoonfuls of salt to his worries, making them grow bigger and bigger until they consumed his entire mind. From that day on, Ananda made a conscious effort to detach himself from his worries and live in the present moment. He realized that worrying about things that were beyond his control was only causing him unnecessary stress and anxiety. He started to focus on the things he could control, such as his own actions and thoughts. Ananda also started to practice meditation and mindfulness, which helped him to quiet his mind and let go of his worries. Whenever he felt his mind wandering towards worry, he would take a deep breath and remind himself to stay present in the moment. Over time, Ananda noticed a significant change in his outlook on life. He felt more at peace within himself and the world around him. He realized that worrying was a habit that he had learned, and like any habit, it could be unlearned. Ananda's newfound sense of peace and calm was not lost on those around him. His family and friends noticed a positive change in him, and he became a source of inspiration for many in his village. One day, Ananda met the Buddhist monk who had given him the advice that had changed his life. Ananda thanked the monk for his guidance and told him how much he had helped him to overcome his worries. The monk smiled and said, "My dear friend, the answers were always within you. All I did was to help you see them." The wisdom to overcome his worries had always been within him. He had just needed someone to help him see it. From that day on, Ananda made it his mission to help others who were struggling with worries and anxiety. He became known as the worry-free farmer and traveled around the countryside spreading his message of peace and mindfulness. Finally, the story of Ananda teaches us that worry and tension are like two birds that can rob us of our happiness and peace of mind. We must learn to detach ourselves from our worries and live in the present moment. By focusing on the things we can control and practicing mindfulness, we can overcome our worries and find a sense of peace and calm in our lives. Thanks for watching.